Good evening, everybody. Today I'm coming to you to talk about women of the Revolutionary era for Liberty University's online class for the American Revolution. Today I'll be talking about the role Mercy Otis Warren played in the American Revolution and just the impact that her story, even though untold, played as a whole in the war. So some background. So Mercy Otis Warren was a prolific character in the early stages of the American Republic. She is best known, as history calls her, the conscience of the American Revolution, and filled many roles in becoming so. John Adams once said of Mercy Otis Warren, "God Almighty has entrusted her with the power for the good of the world, which he bestows on few of the human race." Her role could not be more prevalent than with what John Adams says there. He says that she has such a role that God's given her, and it's a shame that we don't see her in that role today. Although not formally educated at a young age, she was able to sit in while her older brother was being tutored. At a young age, a reverend gave her a set of books, some writing materials, which got her into wanting to write. And this is perhaps one reason for her desire to write. And then in 1754, everything changed for her. She married a guy by the name of James Warren, who was an ardent patriot. He served in the Massachusetts legislature, and when he saw what his wife could do writing, he said that she was his scribbler. So she became his scribe for him while he was in the Massachusetts Assembly, since she could write much better than he could. Besides being her husband's scribe, she was also encouraged to write plays about the war for people to read. Leading up to the war, she writes 3 plays. She writes one called The Adulterer, another one called The Defeat, and then a third one called The Group. These plays were all written to show the evil and corrupt ways of the British officials in Massachusetts. They're written in a way that everyday ordinary people could understand them. You didn't have to be educated. You didn't have to know fancy words to be able to read these plays and understand what she was trying to say to people. Even when the war ended, she continued on to write about the Constitution and the early government, and she did so under a pen name of Columbian Patriot. One reason that I believe she did this was, with a new republic, it was seen as a man's world. Still seen as a man's world. And in order for her to be taken serious now, I think that she realized that she had to change the narrative in what she wrote. And this allowed to have her a greater role in the American Revolution than most women, and certainly more than we think women had today. If we think about women in the American Revolution, we often think of Betsy Ross, creator of the first flag. We often think of Molly Pitcher, Battle of Monmouth, where her husband goes down and she cools the cannons. Not often do we think of Mercy Otis Warren and the role that she actually played and how important she just was. While not much is taught about this incredible woman in schools, her role is very important. Besides being the one writing for her husband, her plays brought knowledge of things to the people who otherwise may not have understood what was happening. The role of playwright and writer during the war are often left to men such as Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, or even Thomas Paine. Not often do we hear of Mercy Otis Warren or even read about her. In fact, if you want to read or know about Mercy Otis Warren, one of the best ways to do so is to go and read a book by Elizabeth Elliot, The Women of the American Revolution, which shows the many roles that women played, more importantly, the role that Mercy Otis Warren played. These stories of Mercy Otis Warren are not well known and therefore not challenged like many other stories. However, it does not diminish the facts of what she did. So I hope this gives you an insight into who Mercy Otis Warren was, the role that she played in the American Revolution, the importance that she played in the American Revolution, and just why we need to change our perspective of the role that these women played.